What's up, guys? I am here with Cameron from the Wet Spot, and we are going to talk about a fish that I admittedly do not know a lot about, but I am interested to find out more about. And that's the hatchet fish, so stay tuned.
Oh boy.
All right, so here's the first tank. Who are these guys?
These are going to be the platinum hatchet fish. These guys come from Colombia. There's admittedly not just all that many species of hatchet fish, but I do have some very strong opinions on them based on a lot of my time in retail. Because it seems like these poor fellows seem to do a few wacky, wiggly things that, at least from my experience working in stores for more than a decade plus, has taught me here and there. And they're just wonderful fish. These guys aren't going to get particularly large, maybe 2 inches long, maybe a little bit past that. Hatchet fish are a bit of a mystery because they, there's something fairly ubiquitous. Most of us have probably kept hatchets at some time or at least seen them. They're pretty much all wild caught. Very few species have been spawned in captivity, if memory served, or if there are, there's only a few breeding reports. So most of what you see is going to be coming from nature. A lot of the time with hatchet fish, what I think you see is you'll see spots on their tails or on their fins, and folks will think, oh, it's ick. And it's more just a matter of they're picking at each other a little bit, just because it presents so similarly to that, so you can save yourself some time and medication not worrying about that, while of course being very mindful that these guys can occasionally develop diseases, just like any fish, even healthy fish, and they do have spangles on their body, but they're weird. I don't really know how to better characterize hatchet fish, just because, I mean, they've got the wings, wings in finger quotes, of course, they can leap quite far using those to help them glide, and they always stay at the top. I mean, who doesn't love a fish that actually fills out that top reach of the tank? And I do mean the top. You can see we've got the dominant specimens up here taking that part. You have some subdominant ones that are just below the surface, and what appears to be a Nathacherax steinbachnerii, a little arowana tetra that comes in as a contaminant with these fellows. Nippy little jerks, but still really cool. With hatchets, of course, you want to keep them in a group and you want to feed them really well. You might have just noticed I sprinkled a bunch of flake food, and of course, a lot of it's at the bottom, but by the same token, if we want to keep these guys from not picking at each other, we got to feed them. So how do we mitigate that? Well, selfishly, I'm going to say keep catfish with them. Keep something that will help keep that bottom clean. And of course, be mindful with flake, because as you can see when I close that lid, they'll spooked. But fascinating fish, love eating close up at the top. And the platinums, of course, are a really nice looking fish. I like these guys a lot.
All right, so moving on to the next tank here. Who are these?
So these guys are going to be silver hatchets. A little bigger, a little burlier, as you can see. These are going to come from Colombia. You actually can see, at least I can see it on a few of these guys. I know they're moving really swiftly, and there's a lot of fish. Some of those spots that I was talking about that sometimes are confused for ick, where, of course, I don't want to ignore things like that. I always do my due diligence, but upon trying to treat them with anti-ick medication, it never spread, never changed. So my opinion was, and of course it's an opinion, always possible to be wrong, that it's just a little bit of conspecific aggression. I'm kind of an anxious person. I'm a little bit reserved, and sometimes even in a group of people, you just get jostled around a little bit, or at least I certainly think so. And it's the same with these. It's a peaceful fish. You don't really chase, but you can see they're jockeying for position. They're shoving themselves out of the way a little bit, and that's where you'll get a few of these scrapes and dings that fortunately, outside of a setup like this, where you have dozens of them in one tank, that us hobbyists don't really have to worry about. These guys are going to be a little bit larger, if memory serves. The largest one I've ever seen is about 2 3/4 inches on these guys. Very deep keel on these guys. I really like them a lot, and they of course have that characteristic stripe on the back. It's just, hatchets were one of my first fish, so I'm always really fond of looking at these guys, although admittedly I haven't kept them in quite a while. But just that body shape is so fascinating. It's really just interesting to me. It's a fish is so common, but it's so strange, and it feels like, it's just not something that everybody goes for, even if you always see them. It's like, where are they all going? I don't know.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Is that I see these all the time, but I've never personally kept them, which I find very odd because of how often I see them. But they're such cool fish. Okay, these guys are very cool. Let's hear more about these.
So of course, these are probably the one hatchet fish that I can at least remember keeping, not as a child, that probably a lot of folks have kept, that stay a little smaller. These are easily the most popular hatchet fish. This is Carnegiella strigata, the marble hatchet fish. If memory serves, they are named after those Carnegies, what were they, robber barons? The family's still extant. I don't want to throw them on the bus or anything, but anywho, these have a very wide-ranging population. They're found in Peru, they're found in Colombia, they're found in Brazil. I believe there's a couple other countries that they might also occur in, and I believe there's even some subspecies that aren't officially scientifically recognize that you'll sometimes see, and you will see some difference in the pattern. As far as I can tell, there's no differences in care. Because they have such a wide range, water parameters aren't typically going to be too, I don't want to say important necessarily, because these can be a little bit touchier, but as long as things are stable, I think they're a little bit less worried about pH, even if nominally these are often thought of as a blackwater fish. Not going to get much larger than 1.25 inches. Beautiful fish. Who doesn't love a marble hatchet fish? I mean, they look neat, the patterning is really amazing. In a big group, it's just stunning to watch. I love these guys. I really need to keep these again. They're popular for a reason. We're always in trouble when we run out, because of course then we need to get a whole bunch more. Love the marble hatchet fish, very cool fish, but main thing is just keeping them well fed, making sure that nobody's jostling them out of the way for food, since they're certainly a lot more reserved than some of their larger cousins.
Okay, and here's the supersized version.
This is Gastera pelicus maculatus, the black spot hatchet. These guys, if memory serve, are going to be mostly found in Colombia. You can see those little spots I was talking about right there on that guy. I swear that's not ick, I promise. These are fascinating because there are natural records of them occurring in Panama, if memory serves. So if you are a stickler for biotopes, real big fan of Central American cichlids, maybe these guys. They do get quite large. You can already see these guys are still yet juveniles, but they're still big. Maximum size of at least 3 inches on these guys. Do actually have a friend that has sought after these guys in Panama. Unfortunately, never found them, but I think that's just a neat quirk that right there, depending on your view of geography, where things meld, that you can with these guys technically call them Central American, if you would be so bold. But really neat fish, certainly a little bit more boisterous than the other hatchets. I use that word very deliberately just because, again, I don't think they're aggressive, but I certainly see a little bit more of that jockeying for position, that jostling with a little bit more, we'll say, gentle ferocity than some of the other guys, but I love these. Very, very cool hatchet. I have a great spot for these, and I just need to suck it up and get myself a big group at home.
I really like the patterning on them, like the really light patterns. It's nice.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to go from one end of the spectrum to the other, and these are the tiny guys. So who are these?
These are Carnegiella meyersi, the pygmy hatchet fish. Hate to say it, these guys can be a little bit touchy. These are juveniles, they are pygmies, they reach a little bit over 1 inch in length. It does seem like they can be a little bit sensitive post-import, and again, all the things that I've mentioned about feeding your hatchets well, choosing tank mates deliberately, we'll say, is of course going to be the name of the game, but these guys are beautiful little fish. As they mature, the belly on them, kind of that keel, gets sort of like this weird translucence, but still having some opacity with black lines on it that are kind of stippled. I think it's really beautiful. Looks very similar to the Marthe hatchets, sometimes called the blackwing hatchets, that we unfortunately don't have in stock right now. But these are very popular for a reason, because they tend to be a little seasonal, tend to be a fish that, like I said, is very sought after, but unfortunately a little bit tricky to keep going. But I mean, it's for a reason. Look at how cute these guys are. I really like the elongate body as well. It's just a little bit, let's say, more tomahawky versus hatchety. There we go. We'll use some delicate verbiage there. But great little fish. Really need to get around to keeping these guys as well.
I'm a fan of anything that's semi-translucent, and that's a big draw for me. I really like these guys. All right, well, that's it. We took a look at those hatchet fish. If you guys have any questions, let us know below. If Cameron didn't go over everything, which I would have a hard time believing. So thank you so much, Cameron, and we will see you next time.